You're listening to the Business Tea podcast, where we talk honestly about what it really takes to start and grow a business.
We share practical marketing advice and real conversations that people don't often talk about, shaped by hands-on experience in agencies, growing businesses, and global brands.
We're Sarah
And Ross.
A brother and sister duo.
And whether you have a small or growing business,
You're building something of your own,
or you're just interested in how marketing actually works,
keep on listening. I feel like some people are going to be like cringing at the fact that I'm doing a podcast. And to be honest, I'm cringing a little bit at myself as well. So shall we say why we're doing a podcast?
I think it would be a good place to start.
It probably would be a good place to start.
Especially for those people that haven't seen us in a while, or
True.
that used to know us and have no longer, are no longer speaking to us.
True. And I don't really post on LinkedIn, and this is going to be alongside an announcement post. So I guess people watching this might know that we've launched a business called The Business Tea.
Yeah.
But in terms of the podcast then, I feel like we're so lucky because of having worked in very similar roles, different industries most of the time, isn't it? Yeah. But we've been lucky to have somebody to always talk to about marketing.
Yeah.
And we're very close. It's nice to have had that person as an outsider to what we're working on really closely in our roles, but to have that person as like a sounding board or somebody just to talk through things with that actually gets it as well.
Yeah, and I feel like we've always had so many conversations where we've said like, oh, imagine if we just had a microphone between us, and we always have really in-depth conversations. And I feel like if you don't have someone like we do to talk through marketing or business, it's quite difficult. So I feel like this podcast, not only are we kind of opening the door for people to also join that conversation with us, but just giving someone an outlet to be able to learn and, experience marketing and business through a different lens.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point in terms of wanting to join the conversation, because I suppose we're lucky, like we say, that we've had each other. Some people might not have anybody like that, so that's where they can listen in, but also some people might want that. And so this is hopefully going to be a bit of a space to open up to people that might want to join in conversations like that as well, because I feel like I've seen other podcasts that have done that really well and have almost built a community around the conversation. And I think that's where we've already had that with each other, but hopefully we're now inviting people into that as well, which I think is really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. To your point about the community thing, like I love podcasts where you feel like you're part of the conversation. And I think as a business model and I guess a content strategy for us, like we don't just want to churn out content. Like we want to create this space where people can join in and ask questions and like share their thoughts as well. Yeah,
podcasts are a really good way of doing that, I think, compared to other types of content. And naturally, we are talkers. And although we like generating other forms of content,
and we will,
this is such a different style of content that I think we personally enjoy doing, but then like you say is different strategically for us as well, because it's so different to how other content's consumed, like a blog or, well, I don't need to list them, but...
The one thing that I love about podcasts as well is the fact that you can just shove it on when you're like cleaning or, cooking food. Like it's quite nice to just have us in the background.
It's so much easier to consume, I think, listening
think so.
or
and
watching.
You always put podcasts on when you drive as well. Like any long journeys, it's nice to just be part of the conversation and feel like you're in the room.
And you know what? Doing so much driving for work, I always wanted to listen to a podcast that was business or marketing related to almost like get me in the mindset before going to a meeting or whatever I was driving to. But I never quite found something that fit what I was looking for. I know there's business and marketing podcasts out there already, but I don't know, maybe I just wanted something a bit more casual. Or I
was just going to say that it's more like we're very conversational, and I know we'll get into like the business itself and like what we stand for, but like that accessibility point is so important. And like I genuinely switch off when podcasts get a little bit too complex. And I think whilst we will talk about quite in-depth topics on this show, I do like the way that when we speak, it is very conversational. And if we don't understand something, we break it down really easily for each other.
Yeah, and like you say, it's another form of content that's accessible to people.
And it is nice. I know not everyone's as lucky as us in terms of like sibling relationships, but like you said, the fact that we can talk things through with each other and there's no judgment, we talk openly. We want people to have that with someone else. So even if they've got no siblings or no one that they can speak to about business and marketing, and that we're here.
Yeah, because I suppose without offending anyone that knows me, I don't feel like my friends truly know what I do for work.
I know what you mean.
I feel like marketing is, everybody knows what marketing is, but do people actually know enough to have a conversation about it to the level of detail that we have? And I think that's where we've been so lucky, working in the same sort of world, to sense check ideas, run decisions past each other as somebody that's like an outsider and almost like another listening ear, share frustrations, like all those things that we get because we're also in it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I can have those sorts of conversations with people that aren't in marketing or that haven't had that experience.
Yeah. It's like when you speak to your friends and family about what you do, you can sometimes see their eyes like glaze over.
Yeah.
Like they're really caring and supportive, but they genuinely just don't know what you're talking about.
And they can't add. Like they want to support you, like you say, but they can't really add or relate to it.
Yeah, our mom's the perfect example of this, because she will like happily hear us out, but you can sometimes see that the cogs like stop to a certain extent. But I guess it's like anything. Like if I sat down with a mechanic and said like, tell me about what you do, my eyes would glaze over, because I'd be like, I've got no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, but equally would be happy to be involved, but couldn't add any value to it.
Yeah.
But hopefully, I suppose this podcast might be a way for people to understand a bit more about marketing if they don't have much knowledge of it so far.
Yeah.
And maybe break down some of those barriers, because I know in worlds that I've worked in before, that's been a challenge in terms of getting people on board that maybe don't have the full understanding of what marketing as a function even is.
Yeah,
so
and it's like you said, there's so much to marketing, and I think that's why we're excited for this space and this podcast, is that we've, like you said, we've both worked in like similar industries, we worked in different industries. Like, I'm not going to go into our career history because I don't want to just like do a CV read, but like we've got that much experience in different roles and different marketing functions that actually we can add a lot of value in a lot of different places.
yeah.
So to keep it short and sweet.
Oh god, no, I'm not very good at doing that.
I love the way we have to remind each other as well. Like, be punctual, be
Come on,
succinct.
you're doing it right now.
Oh no. If you had to describe who this podcast is for, who would you say?
I would say anybody that's maybe building or growing a business that's doing it alone, especially that point, because like we've said, we can be that space and hopefully build that community where they don't feel so alone. Anybody maybe that's trying to figure out something to do with marketing or business where they can then listen in and hopefully get some value to take away and implement that. Or even people like in marketing teams that maybe, although they're surrounded by people that do understand marketing, maybe they don't have that person like we do who's like maybe their business bestie, or that person that can be their sounding board. And so this could maybe be the space for them as well. Do you think there's anyone that I've missed?
I don't think so. I think that's the main, I guess, audience that I would envision for this podcast. But I do also think that, like, looking at myself, and you're the same, like, I love to learn. So, like, if there's anyone out there that even isn't in marketing or doesn't have a business but just loves to understand different industries and like how things work, I also think this space is really good for them. Yeah,
that's so true, actually, because you do come across people that maybe, like, I've got friends who aren't, like you say, in a marketing role. They're in a role that's in quite a niche industry and maybe operations or something like that, but they are intrigued because maybe they work with a marketing team but don't fully understand it. And I think when you're in it as well, you don't want to make yourself look like you don't know something. So you don't want to ask. So maybe people like that who are intrigued generally in marketing or business in general can come and find out more.
Yeah, and I know we'll go into like consumer behaviour and psychology and stuff in one of the episodes later down the line, but like even as a consumer, marketing is becoming so out there that I feel like there's that many different like social channels and things that like people just genuinely want to know how they work.
Yeah.
So I feel like this space, even as a consumer, would be a good opportunity for them as well.
That is so true as well, because like you say, marketing is becoming more widely known, and it's that age-old saying, well, maybe only if you work in marketing, but that everyone's a marketer.
Yeah.
So now that people are becoming more of a marketer because of social media or things like that, that as a consumer, the marketing is touching their day-to-day lives, that might then, like you say, spark an interest, and somebody that's not in marketing who might want to get into marketing can learn more and see if it actually is something that they are genuinely interested in getting into as well.
Yeah, that is so true.
I think as well, being siblings, we've been quite lucky in that the way that we speak to each other is so open. We're not afraid of offending each other or saying something silly, or we just have such open conversations. And I think that's allowed us to actually open the lid on things that we've seen that maybe we feel is inefficient, or that we think could be done differently, or things that frustrate us, whereas we might not have actually said that so openly in the workplace. I mean, I think I probably sometimes did, but I think that has kind of opened our eyes to the fact that it's not isolated to us as a person or the business we're working in. It's actually wider than that.
Yeah. And like you were saying about like frustrations, even on the flip side of things, like when we've done something that actually works, we share that with each other. And I don't think that traditionally in a lot of businesses, especially bigger businesses and smaller, I guess, like any business really, you don't shout about your wins or what's worked, and you know, you don't share those efficiencies as well as the inefficiencies.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that is like a cultural thing. Like we're go, but actually don't reflect, like you say, well, probably at all enough, but especially about the wins. So at least then we're kind of opening that up.
And I think it stems, that whole like sharing efficiencies and things that we've learned. Like, I know we'll get into how we got into marketing in probably another episode, but you were first is the short answer to
well,
that
I'm
question.
older, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But I do feel like seeing how much you love marketing and why you got into it, also like that bled into my life in terms of like, I also discovered that I love marketing and business, and, you know, watching, I guess, environments and businesses improve. And that's also what then fired into those conversations that we had of like what we've learned and what we enjoy. So naturally, it feels like everything's kind of came to this point, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, when we speak about business or marketing, we are passionate and we genuinely enjoy it. And I think that then invites people to talk to us about it, because people know that we are. And it's funny because people, like in my personal life, are, I think, cautious of how much they ask me about work and marketing, because it's like they know that I'll just keep going on about it because I'm passionate. And the same for you as well. Like, hence why we're starting this, because we can talk so freely and so much about it because we genuinely enjoy talking about it.
Yeah, and like you say, as soon as people know what we do, it's suddenly like oh, can you help me with my Instagram? Or how do you do paid ads? Like, there's always like a follow-up, and we, like you say, love that, and we will absolutely have that conversation. But I guess the business tea, and this podcast in particular, gives us the vehicle to like talk more broadly to a bigger group of people.
I suppose that's why we wanted to start the business tea, because like we said, we genuinely enjoy and love our roles and we've had that experience, but we get such a fire in our belly when it's those small businesses or people that have got a business and they're trying to grow it, that do say, oh, you work in marketing, can I just ask you something? Or, oh, so do you know how to do paid ads? And it was the amount of those conversations that I think both of us were having separately and together that identified there must be some sort of gap where small businesses or people that are trying to grow a business feel as though they don't have those tools or the go-to people to just ask those questions or get the help and clarity that they need.
Yeah, and it's like, even though there's so much content out there, and I know we'll talk about this in a future episode, but like, there is so much noise out there that like nothing feels actionable. Like, you know, people are giving a lot of like free advice and consultancy online, but then like they're not then taking that and layering it into their own personal brand.
Yeah, and we as well with content have got a little bit frustrated with seeing things out there from people that are maybe less experienced than us or don't have such a broad variety of marketing experience, but they're putting the content out there and we're like, well, if they're doing it, then why aren't we? Because we've got so much value to give and love having the conversations with people that we should just be putting it out there. So I suppose that's kind of why we wanted to start the business team, because we saw that gap and we love talking about it as well. So,
and not to be a negative Nelly, but like a lot of the time those people that are giving that advice have like no real world experience. So like you were saying, like we've got more experience, but they've actually, a lot of them have got like no real experience. Like they've learned a lot from online and they think they're an expert. And for me, that's just like really flawed, because then if anyone asks a question or needs actual hands-on advice with their business or support, they can't do that.
I think there's only so far that theory can go. You also need the experience to back that up and to have that context as well.
Yeah.
I think we're naturally as well people that just like to help people. And the feeling for us when we've helped somebody and then we've seen results off the back of it is then what drives us to keep doing it more as well, which I think is like such a good way to start a business.
Yeah, and that's when it's like you said, like it doesn't feel like work for us because we enjoy it and we love it so much. That rewarding, I guess, like what's the word? Achievement a little bit. What's the right
sense
word?
of achievement.
Yeah, like sense of achievement is just like fueling it. It's like a cycle. Like we give that advice because we love to help. We see it does really well, and then that kind of like fuels us on to do more and help more people.
Yeah, and I think the more people that we've spoken to as well, and the more variety of roles that we've worked in, obviously that's helped with our experience, but I think that's also shown us, and going back to why we started the podcast, but that it's so varied in terms of what people prefer or what budgets people have and how accessible things are to people. And I think especially for the people that we love to help in that small businesses or growing businesses group of people, that is a real big factor to sometimes why they do well versus why they don't do so well.
Yeah, and with the small business space, that advice, like going back to that whole like there's lots of advice out there, it's actually kind of make or break for small businesses. Like it's not like they have massive teams or massive budgets so that they can try things, and if it doesn't work, like it is what it is, move on to the next thing. It can actually like really harm small businesses if they had bad advice, you know. So that's why I think we love helping people, we love seeing the results, but also we want to like help businesses succeed and stop that I guess unnecessary noise.
I was just going to say, we're quite protective of those small businesses.
We're like, no.
And maybe that's because we've been there ourselves. And I think that's another gap that we kind of fill, because we have had that experience of trying to start and grow a business. This is one of them. But also we have worked in the corporate world with global brands.
And agencies.
Yeah, and agencies where the budgets are different. Things might be easier monetary-wise or resource-wise, but we have been there where there's been no budget. And so what do you do in that scenario? So yeah, I think having that variety as well.
Yeah.
You mentioned as well about the harmfulness of some of the advice that we've seen online. Something else that I think is quite harmful or confusing is conflicting advice. Like there's so much advice that I've seen that is just so opposing of each other. And I just think, putting myself in the shoes of a small business owner or somebody that's not so experienced with marketing, I think, how on earth would they know where to start or where to take two different things that are telling you to do the complete opposite of each other?
And this literally happened to me the other day. So I was speaking to my partner Russ about it because he showed me two I guess, posts on Instagram that were talking about like how to grow your account this year, and they were literally opposites. And while some elements were true on both of them, and it wasn't necessarily that like all
wrong.
of the advice was wrong, it was still that point of like, he was saying like, what do I do? And it was almost like immobilizing. And I think like naturally as people, you like compare yourself to people and things that you see online. And it's like, if they're doing X, Y, Z and you're only doing one of those things, you can feel that pressure of like, should I be doing those things?
Yeah. And like online advice is great because it's accessible and it's free, and in this day and age, we're able to learn so much more online. But then I suppose the risk of that is that there's so many opinions, and that is what it is.
Yeah.
It's opinions of people, and they're pushing out what they think is the best advice.
Yeah.
But then as somebody that doesn't fully understand, and I suppose that's where it goes back to the context being added, being helpful, how would you know? Like, how would you know where to start? And I think it's that feeling of not being clear, that if we've experienced that and we understand marketing and we've worked in that industry, as somebody that maybe hasn't or is trying to get that advice from online sources, it's trying to get clarity, I suppose. How do you get that clarity?
Yeah, and I know we'll speak about it, I think, in the next episode about like that overwhelming feeling, but you can see why small businesses A, fail, and B, get so frustrated because they don't have that clarity, like you say.
Yeah, and almost could feel guilty because then it's like and I know I felt this before, but decision paralysis, because there's so many things that you're looking at and thinking, right, okay, need to do that. Right, oh, somebody said this, I need to do that then, or I need to look into that. And then it's like, okay, I've got this huge list of things, but what then you don't start or you don't implement anything because you can't prioritize it. And I suppose that's where we're hoping that by giving our take on things that is a bit more subjective, because we've got different opinions that we will talk through and add our real life context to as well, that hopefully that will help clarify things.
Yeah.
So we've spoken about how marketing looks currently. How do you think, or what would you want marketing to look and feel like?
Oh my God.
For those people specifically, I suppose.
Yeah. I think if I was in their shoes, like taking myself out of my experience and stuff, I would want them to think that marketing is like easy, because it is an easy principle. Like marketing is literally about like selling stuff, you know, like portraying a message and like having people invest in you, your business, your service, whatever. And I feel like because it's so complex, or so it seems, I'd love for people to think it's easy and they'd have that like confidence. Because I feel like when you do anything, like let's say you like order furniture or something, that comes with instructions. And I feel like marketing should feel like it kind of comes with a bit of a, I guess, roadmap of like what to do first. And step 1 is this, step 2 is that. So I'd love for them to have that like confidence that I guess we have through our experience.
Yeah, and I suppose the confidence comes from the clarity and the information and breaking that down, I suppose. And I guess that's where in more episodes we'll talk about strategy, because I think a lot of this comes back to quite tactical things. And there's so many options from a tactics perspective in terms of what can actually be done, the doing day to day, versus the strategy behind why you're doing that. And I think if that's not clear, how do you know that what you're doing day to day is going to get you to where you're actually trying to go as a business?
Yeah, and it goes back to that whole like what you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
Because as a small business, like as a sole trader or a service provider, whatever you have, even if you have products, like you know your products and you know what you do, but then you don't know marketing. So it almost gets like pushed aside. Whereas I'd love for people to feel like they're empowered to do marketing and it feels fun, because I think whilst we talk about frustrations and we are, you know, naturally we kind of vent on certain things, it is fun and it is innovative. And I feel like I would love for anyone listening to take that away from this conversation and think, you know what, I can actually do this.
Yeah, and I think strategy can be quite a scary or daunting word if you don't know how to even begin to put a strategy in place, or if you've not done one before. I know I've felt like that in the past in roles where I first needed to present a strategy about something. It can feel like, well, where do I start? But when you do have that and you know how to put that in place and why you're doing it, you've always got something to go back to. And then that in turn gives people more confidence, because that then helps, I think, with the overwhelm of decision making, because if something doesn't align to where you're trying to go, that easily helps to rule things out. And I suppose give more clarity.
Okay, so to round this episode off, because I feel like we've covered a lot of ground, we've talked a lot of tangents, what do you think the next few episodes will be like for the listeners?
I think it goes back to kind of what we were just talking about in terms of we've been there and we felt what we've just described, overwhelmed, like there's a lot that you could be focusing on. So I think we want those next few episodes to feel like we're adding clarity for people. Whilst we've touched on things like strategy versus tactics, or content, budgets a little bit as well, we'll go into those in a bit more detail, so that hopefully by giving a bit more depth to those topics, we'll be given a bit more direction so that people can feel clearer about what they should focus on or maybe drop.
And in a way, like we've said, that kind of is a bit of a no frills approach, like because of how we communicate with each other, and I guess why we have started the business here. I think it'll very much be like a no nonsense approach. So I do think that if anyone's listening that likes the sound of that and wants to get involved in that conversation, you guys should definitely send in, your thoughts or your questions, or just to let us know where you're at in terms of, do you have a business? Are you trying to start one? And we can absolutely try and tie that into the next few episodes.
Yeah, because like we say, that is where we thrive and we love to have those conversations. So yeah, absolutely, we would love it if people join in with the conversation, because essentially that's what it's all about as well. So
just to round this episode up, I guess if you have resonated with anything that we've been speaking about, do give us a follow and subscribe if you want to see more episodes. In the next episode, we will be deep diving more into that kind of why marketing is overwhelming, how you can navigate that space, etc. So if that sounds good to you, give us a follow and we'll see you in the next episode.